Hey guys, I'm Jordan Riggle, and welcome back to the Masculine Project, where we will never be featured in the New York Times, the Washington Post, on NBC or MSNBC, because frankly, we are just too masculine for them. Today, we're going to be defining those three cool words from biology: genotype, phenotype, and individuality. Let's do this.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 yo, go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves.
So, in the last video, we talked about maximizing our potential for competence. We talked about how ideal masculinity is it's a skill. It's competency. It's something we can get better at. And, obviously capped by our God-given potential, but a skill nevertheless. Remember, our definition is that ideal masculinity is a man's maximization of his potential for competence in the domains of his genotype, his phenotype, and his individuality towards a transcendent goal over time. In this video, I want to dive into those three domains, the three areas, the three highest ROI, return on investment buckets of competency that are available for every man to maximize, going from, the most basic, the most foundational, to the more complicated. The three areas are our genotype, our phenotype, and our individuality. So, those are some fancy pants, $10,000 words right there. What exactly do they mean? Your genotype, my genotype, a man's genotype. Genotype is a biological term that simply means an organism's basic genetic constitution. Essentially what something is made of, right, at the cellular and genetic level. When applied to ideal masculinity, the idea is to ask what's the main genetic difference between men and women that makes them so different while they're still very similar. That genetic difference is, in a word, testosterone, right? Stemming from our XY chromosomes. Men have a lot more testosterone than women. And that causes differences at the biological level, both in the physical realm and in the psychological realm. Basically, testosterone makes men more assertive and more muscular at the statistical level. Right now, forget stuff like primary and secondary sex characteristics for the moment. Either we can't really maximize them like primary sex characteristics, or maximizing them doesn't really move the needle on our lives. Think like growing a legendary beard, right? It's cool, but it's mainly for show. So when we talk about maximizing our competence on the genetic, on the genotype level, we're really saying that we should max out our testosterone and then max out the way our testosterone works its way out biologically. Namely, that would be our muscular competencies and our assertiveness competencies. We need to get strong and we need to get aggressive. And as an aside, in case me using the word aggressive sort of triggered you in some way, I don't want to be an aggressive dude. First, the scientific literature is really fuzzy on whether they deem aggressiveness to be a positive or a negative trait. For example, most of the studies done on gender aggressiveness include actions filed under aggressiveness, like resorting to physical violence in interpersonal relationships, right? Think a 5-year-old boy being more likely to hit or kick or punch someone he doesn't like. And actions like a pronounced proclivity for rough and tumble play. Both of these actions, one negative, punching a playmate, and the other positive, enjoying rough and tumble play, are filed under the same rubric heading of aggressiveness. So nobody's really sure, is aggressiveness negative? Is it positive? So for right now, we'll take it in the positive sense, like the word assertiveness, just, meaning the willingness or the ability to confront a challenge or problem. And this willingness is massively fueled by testosterone, hands down, all the way across the scientific literature, period, full stop. So that's the foundational competency bucket class, our genotype, maximizing our testosterone and then using that testosterone to get strong and fit and to get assertive and aggressive. Notice how all of these could be considered games you sort of play with yourself. You compete primarily with yourself over how fit you can get and how assertive you can be. They involve minimal input, let's say, from other people or society at large. So we have our genotype. The next bucket, the next level, the next step up, the next sort of game that you start playing involves you and sections of society. You in relationships with other people. This is the phenotype portion of our definition. And there's another $10,000 word. It comes from our dearly beloved biological community. Again, a phenotype is the set of observable characteristics of an individual organism resulting from the interaction of its genotype with its environment. Basically, think it's how your genetic gifts change or develop in some way when we plop them down in some sort of an environment. It's the social outworkings of the biological reality that you're in the process of maximizing. So if your genotype advantage is testosterone, and testosterone gives you physical strength and psychological aggressiveness, how do we profitably incorporate or harness those aspects into a human social environment, especially in relation to the womanly phenotype? If our genotype is basically playing a game against ourselves, our phenotype is playing games with other people in society at large and trying to be more competent at those games compared with other men. Think of your genotype as a set of raw ingredients you have available, and your phenotype as the recipe that our human culture has painstakingly put together over thousands of years to show you how to turn those raw ingredients into a tasty meal. Because society has a vested interest in helping you mix those ingredients into a tasty meal, they have a vested interest in incorporating you into society, and they have a vested interest in maximizing how men and women work together. There will always be an edge of masculine competition when it comes to this phenotypical portion of our ideal masculinity definition. Think like from other men joshing and sort of teasing the new guy at the cigar lounge to a wife testing her husband's resolve periodically, to a social hierarchy that rewards and honors, let's say, a male doctor with greater money and status over a male plumber. Men are made to compete against each other in society by society. And the ensuing rewards for correct maximization in this societal competition, things like more money or greater social prestige, are the carrot for maximizing your potential and your competence efficiently and effectively, and contributing to the social fabric, while lower social stature and lower financial reward are the stick. Now, the highest ROI cross-cultural games that our masculine phenotype domain, that the majority of sociologists, anthropologists, even biblical scholars all agree. These three areas are threefold. I'm not going to go too deep into each one of these in this video because I plan on doing separate, more thorough videos on each of them. But they are 1, protecting, 2, providing, and 3, procreating. Protecting activities, providing activities, procreating activities. And all 3 of these are further broken down into 2 parts. Familial protection, familial provision and familial procreation, things that are family oriented, right? Hence the word familial. Stuff like familial procreation is seen in things like having babies. Familial protection can be seen in things like, concealed carrying, a gun while you're out and about with your family, that sort of thing. Then there's a fraternal or a societal protection, a societal provision, a societal procreation. Things like fraternal procreation can be seen in mentoring younger men in society. Fraternal protection can be seen in, possibly defending society in a war, or protecting the orphan and the widow. But like I said, I'll do more videos explaining each one of these in greater depth in that later video. So especially in the area of our phenotypes, right? There's a lot of different axes in play, lots of different variables to consider. And that sort of brings us to the last bucket in our ideal masculinity list of domain buckets, that of a man's individuality, right? Genotype, then phenotype, and now individuality. Individuality is a man's creating his own game to play in life as he aligns every aspect of his life with his transcendent goal. Individual manhood, masculinity is maximizing your competence at loving your individual wife, your individual kids, being competent at your individual job in the specific individual ways that it demands of you. So for example, one man might realize he has a very assertive wife and he must greatly increase his assertiveness in order to lead her well. Another might realize that he has a very sensitive wife and realize he has to greatly decrease his assertiveness while talking with her to lead her well, right? That's sort of my situation. I have a very gentle, very easily bruised wife, so I have to be very delicate because I have a very high assertiveness personality. Whereas maybe you sometimes feel like you're in a gladiator match with an incredibly assertive wife. Both of us men are increasing in individuality competencies, one by dialing back the assertiveness and the other by dialing it up, even though it looks from the outside like they're developing diametrically opposite from each other. This domain is where a man becomes truly individualized. The guidance of culture is sort of loosened as he begins to balance and weigh every aspect of his life to judge how well it suits his transcendent goal. So for a Christian, this is where he ensures that every aspect, every rhythm, every facet of his life is reflecting Scripture and amplifying the glory of God. It's here that a man develops soft skills such as personality integration, humility, sympathy, negative capability or empathy or whatever you want to call it, virtue, recovery from failure, emotional fluency, goal setting, true leadership. At scale, leadership at scale, lots of things. I'm not even covering them all. It's here that he usually discovers that balance is all. If you're strong but dumb, weak but smart, rich but a jerk, you lose respect and confidence, both from yourself and others. It's in this domain that a man sands down the rough edges in his life that are counter to his ideal, his transcendent goal. For example, a man may have made himself very physically strong, his genotype, and proven that strength in the more complex game of physical combat as a soldier in competition against other men, right? His phenotype. But then he finds that this indicates a baseline aggression that doesn't really pair well with his other phenotypical roles as a father, a husband, maybe a mentor. Basically, he finds he tends to be an angry, negatively aggressive man, and that those closest to him are, let's say, slightly afraid of him. Therefore, he must now work to balance and tone down his baseline aggression with the softer, more relational skills like negative capability, emotional fluency, cooperation, right, rather than competition. Or let's move this into the Christian realm. Let's take the example of two separate Christian men. One man chooses to follow the advice of Proverbs and invest money over time so as to accumulate compound interest and he becomes wealthy. This is a phenotypical decision, right? Since society and Proverbs has long dictated that investing money is the proper course of action. But another Christian man decides to give most of his income away to help the spread of the gospel, to help those who are needy, because he feels a special calling to do that, like Barnabas in Acts, in spite of the admonition of Proverbs to save money. This is an individuality decision made knowledgeably in accordance with his transcendent goal. Both can be correct, but they're playing two different games. We need to see they're playing two different games at two different levels of ideal masculinity. And let me use this example. This is why Jesus is the perfect example of ideal masculinity, and also not the perfect example to follow. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. Listen to me first. Jesus subordinated every single action, thought, emotion to his transcendent goal of obeying his Father. Follow him in that. But he was like Bobby Fischer, right? Playing chess, breaking rules that society and even scripture deems to be best practices. As he said himself, foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head, right? Jesus had no mortgage. He had no savings. He had no job. But Proverbs says that a wise man saves money and that he works hard. Was Jesus unwise then? Was he a lazy bum? Was he a spendthrift? No. The advice from Proverbs is operating in the realm of phenotypes. Jesus was operating in the realm of individuality. Just like a world chess champion like Bobby Fischer knows when to break the basic, rules of sensible chess play. A knight on the rim is grim, that sort of thing. Jesus knew perfectly when to break the sensible rules of societal and proverbial phenotypical play. He was playing a game that led to a physical cross and a victorious resurrection. Now, because of the fluid and kind of situationally dependent nature of individual masculinity, the primary methods of maximizing our individuality are going to be very, very generalized, highly generalized. There will be more videos that I'll make on this individuality methods, competencies. But for now, just click here to see the last video in this introductory series on ideal masculinity, where we tackle the concepts of maximizing over time and maximizing towards a transcendent goal. If you want a detailed analysis of where you stand compared to this ideal masculinity definition, so you know exactly where and how to get started, go down into the description below and get the masculine checklist from my Substack. It breaks down all the masculine progressions that'll help you grow and asks you practical questions to help you figure out where you are right now and what you need to get started doing. You also get the transcripts of all my YouTube videos and an extra article written by me for men every other week. So go down, click the link in the description below. Most men, they just want the dopamine hit that comes from absorbing new information. Are you going to be different? Are you going to take action? If so, go down, click the link, and get after it.